All right, let's just dive right into this, guys. Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely beyond thrilled that you're here with me today because, listen, we are looking at something truly, truly special. We're not just doing a recap here. We are unpacking a masterclass in human performance. You know, it's one thing to watch a seven-time champion stand on a podium, confetti falling everywhere, hoisting a trophy. We've all seen that. But it is an entirely different thing to actually get under the hood, to take the engine apart piece by piece and understand the exact psychological machinery that drove that unbelievable level of success. Today, we are taking a massive deep dive explainer into Tom Brady's complete transformation. And I mean a transformation from a freezing, frustrated, completely overlooked benched college player at Michigan to the undisputed, unquestioned greatest quarterback in the history of the sport. We're doing this by dissecting a brilliantly raw and incredibly candid conversation between elite football minds. I'm talking about guys who have literally bled on the exact same fields, looking back and trying to figure out what truly separates the good from the absolute legends. We are going to break down the sheer anatomy of winning. We're looking at the architecture of peak performance and the sheer, unadulterated, almost maniacal resilience required to dominate a physical sport for over 2 decades. If you are fascinated by the mindset of champions, or honestly, if you just want to know how meticulous, obsessive preparation creates real-world miracles, well, grab a seat, because you are in exactly the right place. Okay, so here is the roadmap for our analysis today. We are going to start off with number 1, a Super Bowl rivalry, just to set the stage. Then we'll move into number 2, mastering the 2-minute drill. After that, number 3, the Malcolm Butler miracle. Then we'll rewind the clock for number 4, the Michigan mindset shift. And finally, we'll bring it all together with number 5, controlling what you can. Let's jump right in.
Section 1, a Super Bowl rivalry, the Eagles versus the Patriots clash.
Now, to truly understand high-stakes pressure, the kind of pressure that literally makes it hard to breathe, we have to drop right into the incredibly intense environment of Super Bowl 52. Picture the scene. It was this relentless, heavyweight, high-scoring battle between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. The pressure in that stadium was just suffocating. We were talking about massive fourth-down conversions, huge chunk plays, running backs making insane acrobatic catches, and this overwhelming feeling on the sideline that you had to be absolutely flawless just to keep pace. And from that chaos, it led to this fascinating insight from the guys who played in it. You never feel in control if you're behind in a game. And think about that for a second. When you're trailing, even if your offense is executing perfectly, even if you are moving the chains, there's this lingering, unsettling feeling of instability in the pit of your stomach. You're fighting the opponent, yeah, but you are also fighting the clock. But here's the brilliant, almost crazy twist to this whole scenario. The Eagles actually had the lead in this game, yet they felt completely unsettled. Why? Because they knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that if there was one human being walking the planet who actually thrives when playing from behind, it was Tom Brady. Think about the gravity of that for a second. You are winning the Super Bowl. You have the lead. But the mere presence, the sheer mythological reputation of your opponent standing on the other sideline completely strips away your sense of security. A true master of the comeback doesn't just beat you physically. They are haunting you psychologically before the game is even close to being over. They get inside your head.
Section 2, mastering the 2-minute drill, orchestrating the comeback. The 2-minute drill. Guys, this is the absolute crucible of professional football. There is zero margin for error. The crowd noise is absolutely deafening. You can't hear yourself think, and the stakes are at their absolute undeniable peak. But for a hyper-prepared quarterback, it's not panic time. It's a moment to establish absolute dictatorial control. When things are going well, this chaotic scenario actually strips away all the messy complexity of the game and distills it down to pure, brutal execution. It's like grandmaster level chess played at 100 miles an hour. And it breaks down into a very distinct, ruthless sequence. Step 1. Force the defense into 2-minute mode. By accelerating the pace, by refusing to huddle, you literally strip the defense of their ability to run complex, disguised schemes. They just have to line up. Step 2. Keep the clock running. A moving clock creates sheer, unadulterated panic on the other side of the ball. The pass rushers are exhausted, their hands are on their hips, and they are gasping for air. Step 3. Force the defense to signal. Because that clock is relentlessly ticking down, the defense is desperately trying to communicate coverages through these frantic, chaotic hand signals from the sideline. Step 4. Snap before they are ready. This, right here, is the kill shot. You catch them mid-communication. Half the defense is looking at the sideline, half is looking at the ball. Step 5. Hit the soft spot in coverage. Because you've essentially forced them into a rushed, panicked, uncoordinated state, you can easily read the coverage pre-snap and find the wide-open receiver. By methodically following this exact sequence, you completely dictate the pace. You take a situation that is supposed to be pure chaos, and you establish tyrannical, total control over the game's final moments. It is a masterpiece of psychological warfare.
But here is where the story gets profoundly interesting to me. We have to talk about the weakness. And there was a big one. A distinct, undeniable lack of mobility and scrambling ability. Unlike modern quarterbacks today, the guys who can simply pull the ball down, break 3 tackles, and outrun a bad decision, that just wasn't an option here. If the play broke down, if the offensive line collapsed, there was no escaping. He was a sitting duck. So what on earth is the solution to that? It's over-preparing and reading defensive schemes pre-snap. Because he quite literally didn't have the physical option to scramble away from danger, it forced an almost obsessive, borderline unhealthy reliance on mental preparation. Think about how brilliant this irony is. His biggest physical limitation actually became the very catalyst for his greatest strength. He had to make absolute sure his guys were going to be open before the ball was even snapped. He was constantly, relentlessly diagnosing the defensive scheme while he was walking up to the line of scrimmage. He's solving the math problem before the teacher even finishes writing it on the chalkboard. The lack of elite athleticism didn't doom him. It forged an absolute, unmatched mastery of the mental game. It proves that sometimes the obstacle isn't just sitting in the way, the obstacle literally becomes the way.
Section 3. The Malcolm Butler Miracle, Super Bowl 49. Now, to really understand the massive gravity of the 2014 Super Bowl against Seattle's terrifying, legendary Legion of Boom defense, you absolutely have to look at the timeline leading right up to it. You can't skip this context. Look at the early 2000s here. A magical Year 1 Super Bowl win out of nowhere, followed up quickly by back-to-back championships in 2003 and 2004. When you experience that level of ultimate success that early in your career, it creates a very dangerous illusion of ease. You start to think, oh, this is just how it goes. I'll probably win 10 of these. But look at the massive, grueling gap that follows on the timeline. A truly heartbreaking, soul-crushing loss to the Giants in 2007 to ruin the perfect season. A second, devastating nightmare loss to the Giants again in 2011. Suddenly, you wake up and you are looking at a grueling, agonizing 10-year championship drought. 10 long years of the media, the fans, and maybe even yourself questioning if the magic was gone forever. So when 2014 finally rolls around, and they find themselves down 10 points to an all-time great Seattle defense in the fourth quarter, the stakes are infinitely higher than a normal game. This wasn't just about one trophy. The entire legacy, the whole narrative of his career, was completely on the line right there.
And that intense pressure cooker brings us perfectly to this defining phrase, when meticulous preparation meets opportunity. Malcolm Butler's interception on the goal line is widely and rightfully considered one of the greatest, most shocking defensive plays in the history of football. But as we learn from unpacking our elite sources here, this wasn't just some stroke of lucky magic. The real story is Butler pulling the trigger, trusting himself completely as an undrafted rookie on the biggest stage imaginable. When a receiver comes out of a break on a pick play like that, they are trying to minimize the opportunity for the defender to beat their angle. You want the defender to have to physically go through you to get to the ball. But Butler shot that exact angle with absolute geometric perfection. Why? How does a rookie do that? Because of obsessive film breakdowns. Because the Patriots had practiced that exact, highly specific, incredibly rare situational play over and over and over again on the practice field, before it ever happened under the stadium lights. That grueling preparation carried over, perfectly allowing a rookie in the biggest, most terrifying moment of his life to silence the noise, trust his practiced instincts, jump the route, and make the play of a lifetime. It is the absolute, ultimate testament to the power of over-preparation.
Section 4. The Michigan Mindset Shift, Overcoming Early Struggles.
Let's completely rewind the tape and go back to the origin story. I want you to picture this. A kid from sunny San Mateo, California, arriving in freezing gray Ann Arbor, Michigan, probably without a proper winter jacket, and spending his first 3 entire years glued to the bench. It was a miserable, character-testing environment that exposed some pretty toxic attitudes early on. And look, we've all been there. On one hand, you have these self-defeating behaviors, constantly making excuses, complaining to anyone who will listen that the coaches didn't want him in there, blaming the environment, blaming the weather. It is the ultimate victim mindset, and it's a trap so many of us fall into when things don't go our way. We look outward. But on the exact opposite side, you have productive behaviors, bringing the juice, treating a measly throwaway 3 reps at the end of practice like it's the Super Bowl, celebrating practice touchdowns like you just beat your biggest rival on national television. This shift, it wasn't a natural evolution. He didn't just wake up one day fixed. This was a forced, uncomfortable confrontation with his own self-sabotage, spearheaded by a legendary sports psychologist at Michigan named Greg Harden. Harden was the guy who pulled him aside and gave him the incredibly harsh reality check that altered the entire trajectory of his life.
I really want to read this exact quote to you, and I want you to just sit with it and really let the weight of these words sink in. Greg Harden said, "If they give you 3 reps, you do the best with the 3 you get. Quit bitching. You treat practice like it's a game." Boom, just like that. That right there is the catalyst. Harden looked a frustrated young athlete dead in the eye and essentially said, "Look, I like you, you work hard, but you have a terrible, toxic attitude. Stop worrying about the other highly recruited quarterbacks. Stop worrying about what the coaches think of you. Control what you can actually control." He challenged him to bring absolute fire and energy to every single solitary rep he got, even if it was just 3. Because the reality is no one cares about your excuses. No one cares that it's unfair. You go out there and you act like it's the biggest game of your life every single Tuesday afternoon. This one piece of tough love, this exact conversation, completely rewired his brain's approach to football, shifting his focus entirely from external complaints and whining to fierce internal execution.
So let's track this. What are the actual real-world results of that kind of radical mindset shift? For the first 3 years at Michigan, as we said, he was a bench warmer trapped in a victim mentality. But look at years 4 and 5. He starts bringing that undeniable practice juice. He competes fiercely for the job, he watches the guy ahead of him lead the team to a national championship, and instead of pouting, he learns from it. He absorbs it. Then we transition to the pros, getting drafted in the 6th round. Pro year 1, he doesn't take it easy. He doesn't just collect a paycheck. While everyone else is treating the scout team reps like a joke, like a day off, he becomes a scout team terror. He's out there trying to physically and mentally beat up his own starting defense. Imagine that. Veteran all-pro defenders are looking at this scrawny rookie, sensing a total, borderline psychotic obsession with the sport. It annoyed them, but it earned their deep respect. Then, pro year 2. That relentless competitiveness and insane preparation wins him the primary backup job. So when the franchise starting quarterback goes down with a brutal injury, there was no panic. The preparation perfectly met the opportunity. He stepped in, he was ready, and he literally never gave the job back.
Constructing the ultimate field general, it turns out, is a very deliberate step-by-step process. It doesn't happen by accident. First pillar, master the mental game. He actively modeled his approach after his biggest rivals, guys like Peyton Manning, who he viewed as the absolute undisputed epitome of pre-snap processing and getting the team into the perfect play. Second, build emotional and competitive stamina. This is huge. He intentionally forged his leadership skills and his internal fire long before his physical body was actually fully ready for the NFL beating. Third, embrace the leadership role. You have to genuinely love the preparation. You have to love the grueling practice just as much as you love Sunday afternoons. Fourth, let the physical body catch up. He actually notes that it wasn't really until around 2003, a few years into his starting career, that his physical strength and throwing mechanics finally perfectly aligned with his mental mastery of the game. And finally, number 5, remain relentlessly curious. You have to be open to learning from everyone who supports you on the journey. Coaches, trainers, even younger players. It is a constant, unending process of evolution. You never actually arrive.
Section 5. Controlling what you can. The ultimate productive mindset.
Look, when things go terribly wrong, whether that's in sports or in business, and you start losing games or missing targets, the natural human instinct is always to point fingers outward, right? We've all done it. Well, my teammates aren't doing this, the coaches aren't doing that, the market is bad, but yielding to that exact instinct is incredibly toxic. It absolutely destroys organizational culture from the inside out. The only true productive way forward is a radical, almost aggressive focus on your own personal responsibilities, and this is the absolute foundation of the famous do your job philosophy. Point 1, control only what you can strictly control. Point 2, if you're the center, your only job is to be the best center you can possibly be. Don't worry about the wide receivers. By being the absolute best at your specific granular role, point 3 happens. You insulate the team. You become an undeniable pillar of reliability. You provide a calming, stabilizing force in the midst of total chaos. And finally, you must aggressively, proactively ignore outside noise and built-in excuses. Seriously, ask yourself, what good does it actually do anyone to focus on reasons that are completely outside of your control? It is entirely pointless. It drains your emotional battery and it directly prevents you from actually fixing the real problem sitting right in front of you.
Now, I want you to consider this staggering, incredibly powerful metaphor directly from the source material. Every brick in the road that you put down is an opportunity. Every brick you put in a wall is just an excuse that blocks your opportunity. Let's really take a minute and break down this imagery, because this is the core of everything we've talked about. We are all given bricks in life, right? Every single day. These bricks are challenges. They are our unexpected setbacks, our failures, the things that hurt us. But we have a fundamental choice in how we use those bricks. We can lay them down flat on the ground, creating a paved road of harsh experience that eventually leads to our future success, or, and this is what most people do, we can stack them vertically, building a massive wall of excuses that traps us in our current situation. And here is the modern trap we all face: our support systems. We have family, we have friends, we have colleagues who love us and hate to see us hurt. So when we fail, they rush in, meaning well, and they actually hand us bricks for our wall. They pat us on the back and say, hey man, it wasn't your fault, the referee screwed you, your boss is just a jerk, the economy's bad. Taking that excuse, taking that brick from them, it feels really, really good for about 5 seconds. It warms the ego, but long term, you have just literally built a wall that blocks your own line of sight and prevents your own growth. You have completely outsourced your accountability, and in doing so, you've given away all your power to improve.
As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final deeply provocative question to chew on. Think about your own life for a second. When you are facing adversity, when things go totally sideways at work or at home, are you laying bricks for a road, or are you busy building a wall of excuses? Are you acting like that frustrated benched kid back in Michigan, complaining about your lack of reps, blaming the weather, and pointing fingers at the coaches? Or are you taking that Greg Harden tough love advice to heart? Are you bringing absolute juice to every single rep you get, controlling exactly what you can control, and over-preparing in the dark until your biggest, most glaring weakness actually becomes your ultimate strength? The blueprint for becoming a 7-time champion or reaching the absolute pinnacle of whatever field you are in, it isn't magic. There's no secret potion. It is relentless, obsessive preparation, and it is a fierce, uncompromising refusal to build walls out of your own failures. So look at your own life, analyze your own recent setbacks, and ask yourself honestly, what are you building today? A road or a wall? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, guys. I really hope this shifted your perspective a bit, and I absolutely cannot wait to see you on the next one. Keep laying down that road.